This is a lesson about using Uber and Lyft. The two apps are so similar that if you learn one, you will in effect have learned both. We're going to cover a lot of territory, but because of the similarity of the apps, it would be unnecessarily repetitious and boring to go over each one of these points in detail for both Uber and Lyft. So what we're going to do instead is to cover the Uber points in detail. Then when we go to Lyft, we will try to limit ourselves to the essentials and to pointing out the differences between the two apps. So let's take a ride. Here's a screenshot of one of the home screens on my phone. The Uber and Lyft links are front and center. To open the Uber app, we tap on that link, and then we're going to request a ride. When the app opens, this is the screen I see. I call this the Where To screen. And the box at the top, I am invited to start typing in the address of the location I want to go to. So I'm going to tap on that box. That opens up a dialog that has a couple of boxes up near the top of the screen. The first box is labeled Home. That's the starting point for this trip, and it is where I want to start, from my home. The box underneath that has 287 already typed in was blank when it opened. I started to type in an address. And in this case, we are going to visit friends at 287 Kent Street in Brookline. So all I had to do was type in 287, and Uber gave me several suggestions. 287 Kent Street in Brookline, looks like 287 Hanover under that, then 287 Dartmouth, and so on. Now the reason that Uber gave me the location I want to use as the first suggestion is that I have gone to this location in the past using Uber on this phone. So Uber knows that this is a spot that I go to. It has learned it, and it now suggests it. So I type in 287. The suggestion is 287 Kent Street, which is where I want to go. I'm going to tap on that suggestion to choose it. And here's what I see. My trip is outlined. At the top, there is a box that says Towers at Longfellow. That's the starting place. And that's good because I live at 4 Longfellow Place in the Towers at Longfellow. That's where I want to start. To the left and lower on the screen, you see 287 Kent Street on that label. That's good because that's where I want to go. Let's circle in on those. There's the starting point, Towers at Longfellow. There's the ending point. So I can now go ahead and request a ride. Now you will see on this screen that there are a couple of choices just to on either side of the arrow. On the left of the arrow, there's an entry for pool at $6.97. To the right of the arrow, there's an entry for Uber X for $11.05. Uber X is highlighted. That is the default. And indeed, the arrow is pointing to the box which has Request Uber X already entered. Those are choices of two vehicles. These are two types of rides I can take. Uber X is the default. It's the one you will almost always use, if not always. We will talk about the other selection, Pool, and some other choices later on. Now, let's see what comes up next. All right, I have clicked on Uber X, but Uber wants to be sure that it has the correct pickup location. So I am asked to click on the box at the bottom of the screen that says Confirm Pickup Location. It looks good. There is an address entered for Longfellow Place Lobby. That's where I want to get picked up. To double check, I have circled the pin that has been put on the map, and it is indeed at the 4 Longfellow Place location. So I can tap on the Confirm Pickup Location and be on my way. But what if things had not gone so smoothly? What if instead of seeing this screen with the correct pickup address at the top, the Towers at Longfellow, I had seen this, an incorrect pickup address, 72 Stanford Street. Now this could happen. 4 Longfellow Place is located at the intersection of Longfellow Place and Stanford Street. The residential entrances on Longfellow Place, numbers 4 and 5 Longfellow Place, face onto Longfellow Place. But if you walk around to the other side of the building, just around the corner of the building, you are on Staniford Street. And there are separate entrances on Staniford Street with their own addresses. Those are shops. So in this example, Uber has found and focused on the correct building, but it's just going to send the driver to the wrong side of the building. We cannot have that happen, because if we leave it like this, I will be waiting for the driver at 4 Longfellow Place. The driver will be cruising Staniford Street looking for me at Domino's Pizza. So here's what Uber recommends you do in this kind of situation. Let's zero in. If you need a different pickup location, tap on the pickup location label on the map, enter a new address or building, and choose from one of the locations suggested. So let's do that. I'm going to tap on the incorrect address label on the map, as I am told to. That will take us to this screen. And you can see that the incorrect address is at the top of the screen. It is highlighted, so I can type on that entry and override what's there. I start typing. I want to get 4 Longfellow Place in that box. I get as far as 4LON. Uber knows enough to give me my home address as a suggestion, 4 Longfellow Place. I tap on it, and there we are. I have the correct address. I am, excuse me, I am now set to go. So we are on our way, or at least we will soon be on our way. This is the screen I see. I am told that Uber is finding my ride. You can see at the bottom, we are told finding your ride. Now we'll get updates as things move on. Here we are. This is my first update. I'm told that Uber is on the way. Perkinson. Perkinson is the name of the driver I'm going to get. And I will continue to get updates. Here's the next one. If you look down near the bottom of the screen, you see a label that says 2 minutes. That tells me that the driver is 2 minutes away. And you can see a representation of Perkinson's car there on the map, getting closer in this update. This one tells me that Perkinson is arriving soon in 1 minute. And here we are. This is the final alert. It says meet driver now. This is the message that the driver is here and I should go outside and meet him. But what if I go outside and he's not there? Now this could happen. At Longfellow Place, it's possible he could be in front of number 1 Longfellow Place instead of number 4. On a busy street, he may be on one side of the street facing east. You may be on the west side of the street. The two of you are looking for each other, but you don't connect. The driver will probably call you on your cell phone to find out where you are so you can match up. Also, I've put a box around some information at the bottom of the screen on that notice that says meet the driver now. Let's zero in on there. There is a telephone link. So if you're in that situation and the driver hasn't called you and you have to get together so you can be sure that your ride will take place, you can just click on that telephone icon. That will call the driver and you can get rolling. Now before you get in the car, you want to check it. Let's go back to the update we had about the car when it said meet driver now. I've circled some information about the car. It's a gray Honda Accord with the license plate 9RML80. So I want to look for that car. I go outside and sure enough, there is a Honda Accord with a license plate 9RML80. So I am ready to go. I get in the car and we are on our way. En route, I will see this information on my phone. This is a representation of the ride taking place. It looks like the car is either approaching or is on Starro Drive. If you go to the left of the screen, you'll see that we have an anticipated arrival time of 6:50 p.m. there is some information in a white box at the bottom of the screen. I can go down and I can swipe up on that white box, and I can bring up some more information. I'll get something that looks like this. Now, there is one item that we will return to later that we'll be particularly interested in. That is this item. We'll cover that later in the lesson, so you might want to keep that in mind. After you finish your trip, you're going to be asked to tip and rate your driver. You may be asked that by notification, as is the case in this example. You may get a request to tip and rate your driver by email, by text message, or by some combination. In this case, this is a notification, rate your trip. So I'm going to tap on that. That will open up this box. I am asked how was my Saturday evening trip. There are 5 blank stars at the bottom of that window. I can give Perkinson as many stars as I want, or none. Now here's the information we saw earlier on Perkinson. He's got 4.83 stars. He's had 2,259 trips. 5 stars is the best you can get, so Perkinson is rated pretty high. Now, the ratings are based on information that you and I and other drivers plug in. Uber, for its ratings, uses the average ratings by the most recent 500 drivers. Lyft uses the average of the most recent ratings by the most recent 100 drivers. Okay, so let's go on. In this case, I've given Perkinson 5 stars. I thought he was good. I'm asked to add a tip. I do not have a choice here of not adding a tip. It doesn't say, do you want to add a tip? And it doesn't have a box for 0. You don't have to check any of these choices. Most people probably would. This is really a strong message to give a tip. But what is the word on tip? Should you give a tip? Uber's policy has changed on that question in the course of a few years. This is the message that was on its website in 2017. Tipping is voluntary. Tips are not included in the fare, nor are they expected or required. That's a pretty negative message. The current message on Uber's website is you are free to tip and drivers are free to accept. That certainly encourages tipping. Lyft is even more encouraging. It says after a ride you can choose to tip your driver with cash or through the Lyft app. So let's go back. This is the screen we had before, and sure enough, we are really pushed. It says add a tip for Perkinson. It doesn't say do you want to add a tip for Perkinson. You are encouraged to give a tip. Now, one thing that I should point out here is that the drivers rate the riders. Uber drivers rate you. There's an excerpt from the web. Few passengers realize that they are also rated by drivers. However, Uber also allows drivers to rate passengers, and these passengers in turn can check their ratings. It's almost the same story for Lyft. This entry says Uber and Lyft have used a rating system since launch to improve overall service. And there, the very bottom entry there on that highlighted section is drivers also rate riders. Chances are good that the better tipper you are, the better rating you will get from the drivers. Do you want to check your rating? Here's what you can do. This is the Where To box, Where To screen. This is the first screen that opens in Uber. There is an icon at the top of the left corner of the screen that will open a drop-down menu. I tap on that. I'm not going to actually look at any of the menu items now. We'll come to some of those later. I want to zero in on what's at the top. And up at the top, there is my star rating. Stanley M, 4.96 out of 5. I have a good rating. Now, I have read that the drivers can see the prospective riders' ratings at the time they are offered a pickup. And I am also told that riders can turn down a suggested pickup and that they are more likely to do that if you are not a well-rated rider. That is not good. The apps attempt to match the closest driver to the rider so that there will be a quick pickup. If that driver rejects the ride, it will then go to a driver who is farther away. And if that keeps going, you could have a pretty long wait to get a ride. So does that tell you that you should be a pretty good tipper in order to assure a good rating and be sure that you get good service? Well, that's the hint, but I leave the choice to you. Let's see how we can save ourselves a little bit of time and a little bit of work. Um, in this instance, I'm going to want to go to the Museum of Fine Arts, I think. I don't want to have to go through the work of looking up the address and then typing it in, 465 Huntington Avenue, Boston, MA. Let's see what I can do instead. Here's the Where To screen. I'm going to tap on the Where To screen. And it would be very nice if I didn't have to look up the address and type that whole thing in. Maybe I could just put in Museum of Fine Arts. Or even better, what if I use the accepted shortcut name for the Museum of Fine Arts? What if I were to type in MFA? And look at that, it works. I've typed in MFA as my destination, and the first suggestion I get is MFA 465 Huntington Avenue, Boston, MA. I can click on that suggestion. My trip will be set up, and I have saved myself a lot of work. I will try it now for a restaurant. In this case, I want to go to the Tip Tap Room on Cambridge Street. I have typed in tip, and there we go. Tip Tap Room is the first suggestion. I can click that. I don't have to type in 138 Cambridge Street, Boston, MA. I just have to give one click, and my ride will be set up. Uber and Lyft both learn and know the names and sometimes shortcut names for businesses and for many other public places. So you should try to use a shortcut. Try to type in something logical in the Where To box, in the destination box, rather than worry about the full address. It will work most of the time, and it will give you places that are near you. It is smart enough to put, for example, that New Orleans location at the very bottom of the selections that came up when I put in tip. This will not work for residences. You cannot type in your friend's or your neighbor's name and have that come up as a suggested address. One thing you can do, however, is to save yourself some time by setting up your own home as a shortcut. You'll want to do this because your home address is the address that you will probably use most frequently in both Uber and Lyft. When you're away from home and you want to go somewhere, it's most likely going to be to return to home. So let's see how you would set up your home address as a shortcut. Here I've done it. You can see that here I am. I'm just going to open the Where To screen when I am not at home. I am out somewhere. I have opened the Where To screen, and the first suggestion I get is my home address, 4 Longfellow Place. In order to set that up, you click on the icon in the top left corner of the screen to bring down the drop-down menu, and you go to Settings. In Settings, you go to Add Home. It's right there, right in front of you, all set to go. Tap on that, and you will be asked to enter a home address in the top box. Start typing an address there. I've gotten as far as 4LO, and Uber has given me the suggestion I want, my home address, 4 Longfellow Place. Uber knows to do this because I have used that address many times on this phone using this app, so logically it comes up as the top selection. When you first do this, you will probably have to type in pretty much your entire address because Uber won't yet have learned it. After that, your home address will come up pretty easily, but you won't have to use it because you're going to set it up as a shortcut. Tap on that suggestion, and here we go. Uber has now set up 4 Longfellow Place as my home shortcut. It says it's my favorite, If I want to, I can continue. I can tap on the box underneath Add Work. That will take me here. I can tap on that. And at the box where it says enter a work address, I can enter an address for work and also have that as a shortcut. I'm not going to do that, but what I would like to do is to add some other residential addresses as shortcuts, make them favorites. So how do we do that? How do we add a favorite? To add a favorite, we go back up to that drop-down menu. We're going to settings once we get there. There we go, settings. And this time we're going to select more saved places. Those are under the entries for adding your home and work addresses. We're going to add another saved place, make it a favorite. I am invited to add a saved place after I make that selection. I click on that box. And at the very top of the screen, I am asked to enter an address. I've circled that spot and I've put the word type. So I can start typing in an address that I want to save as a favorite. I'm going to choose 72 Mount Vernon Street. I visit that location often. There are several Beacon Hill Village members who live there. So I start typing in 72 Mount Vernon. I get as far, yes, 72 Mount Vernon. I get as far as 72 MT. The first entry is one I don't want. That's Mount Auburn Street in Cambridge. I don't like that suggestion. So I'm going to tap on the second suggestion, 72 Mount Vernon Street. That's the address I want to save. When I do that, this dialog opens. The address is shown as 72 Mount Vernon Street, but I have to give this saved place a name. So I am invited to type a name into that upper box. I'm going to click and type. One of the people I know who lives there is Joan Doucette. So I will name this saved place Joan Doucette. It will have the name Joan Doucette, the address of 72 Mount Vernon Street. I tap on Saved, and that location has been added to my saved address. Let's try it out. Here we are on a Where To screen. I'm going to tap on Where To. And I'm not going to click on a suggestion now. I'm not going to click on Kent Street or Logan Airport. I'm going to click instead on Saved Places. And sure enough, that saved place, Joan Doucette, 72 Mount Vernon Street, pops up. I tap on that, and my trip is set up going from home, you can see the label near the top of the screen, down to Joan Doucette's location. There you see the label near the bottom of the map. There's another way to do this. You may remember that this is the screen that you see on your phone when you're en route, when you started a trip. And I told you that you could swipe up from the bottom of the screen like that, and you will reveal some other places there. And I said this is the one we will return to. While you're en route, you can go in, swipe up from the bottom of the screen, tap that choice on the bottom of the information that comes up, and save that destination as a saved place. And it will be added to your saved places just the same way that Joan Doucette and 72 Mount Vernon Street were added to saved places. One thing you may find useful is to set up a multi-stop trip. You may want to start your trip at home, pick up a friend at one location, and then the two of you go to your final destination. Here's how you do that. Here we are with a Where To screen. I'm going to tap on Where To get things started. That's going to open up this screen. And you can see the Where To box is grayed out. I am asked Where To with a question mark. But I'm not going to choose a location here. I'm not going to choose Kent Street, Town Hall, or Logan. Instead, I'm going to click on that plus sign to the right of the Where To box. That's going to open an additional destination box. I now have two stop boxes available. I have home as my start. I have a box under that that says add a stop, and a box under that that says add a stop. So I can now pick up a friend, and then the two of us can go to our final destination. In this example, I'm going to pick up someone at River House, that's 145 Pinckney Street, and then we're going to our final destination in Dedham. So to get started, I will tap on that very first add a stop box, like that. And I will start typing in the address for River House as 145 Pinckney Street. I get as far as 14. I get a lot of suggestions from Uber. The bottom one is the one I want, 145 Pinckney Street. I tap on that, and that becomes the entry in the first add a stop box. The second add a stop box is still blank. I want to fill that in with the final destination. I tap on that box. I am invited to start typing. I have to type a lot here. This is a new address for me. This phone and Uber have never used this address, so it does not know to give me the spot that I want as a suggestion. I want to go to 12 Greystone Path in Dedham, but I pretty much have to type out everything before I get the correct suggestion. But eventually it comes up. There it is, 12 Greystone Path. I've circled it in Dedham. I'm going to tap on that. That will now get set as my second destination, and Uber is giving me a chance to add yet another stop. In Uber, I can add up to 2 intermediate stops. I can have my start at home or anywhere else, add 2 intermediate stops, and then add the final destination. I'm not going to do that here. I've already put in the final destination in Dedham, so I'm going to click Done at the bottom. Oh, by the way, I should mention that, and we'll cover this later, in Lyft you can add only 1 intermediate stop. So I'm going to tap on Done at the bottom. That's going to take me to the place where I actually request the car now that the trip has been set up. So I'm going to request UberX. I'm going to be on my way. There's a representation of the car going west on what looks like Interstate 90. We've already left Boston. We're going to go out somewhere on 90, then head south and head down towards Dedham. And the predicted arrival time is 4:56 p.m. I have circled some entries near the bottom of the screen. It shows our starting point, the towers at Longfellow, and the intermediate stop at 145 Pinckney Street. Those entries are grayed out because they have already taken place. Those spots have already been visited. The only entry that is still in a solid black is the Greystone Path entry in Dedham, because that's the one we haven't gone to yet. Now let's see what else we can do. There's another way to do this. Instead of setting up your multi-stop trip in advance, you can actually do it on the fly while the trip is in progress. Here's how that works. We've seen this screen before. This is the view on your phone after your trip has started. In this case, we're back to our first trip going out to Brookline. And as you remember, we said that you could swipe up from the bottom of the screen to get some more information, but we're not going to do that this time. Instead, we're going to take advantage of that link. Right there near the bottom, it's already visible. It says add or change. So you can click on that link and you will get to a dialogue. You can follow the instructions as you go along. And you can add an intermediate stop on your way to the Brookline destination of 287 Kent Street. That is changing the route, is adding a stop on the fly. It will probably cause some changes to be made in your routing. Here's what Uber tells us on its webpage. It tells us that multiple destinations let you add up to 2 extra stops along your route. It says, what's the cost? The cost adjusts as you go. Your fares adjust as you add or remove stops based on time and distance. So be warned, you can change make a change while the trip is on. You can add an intermediate stop on the go, but it's probably going to cost you extra. Let's take a quick look at the car choices. We said we would do that earlier, but we saw that we had an initial choice of choosing Pool or Uber X. Pool is exactly what it sounds like. It's a pooled service. Uber matches you up with other riders going in the same direction or the same general direction. It's going to be less expensive and it's going to take you longer. In this example, you would get to your destination 11 minutes later than a ride on Uber X would. If you swipe your screen to the left, you can go through a series of additional choices. I won't get into details here. Here's a premium choice. This choice, you keep swiping left, you'll get more choices. This one is for larger vehicles, whereas Uber X will let you take 4 passengers. In these choices, you can take up to 6 passengers. You can swipe left again and have Uber X let you call a metered taxi or to summon a WAV, a wheelchair access vehicle. Let's look at pricing. You can go into Google and you can Google Uber pricing, Lyft pricing, Uber rates. You can bring up all kinds of charts and apps to help you try and predict what it's going to cost you to take a ride. I don't do that. I think it's a lot of work to give you only an approximate answer. You will know what your ride is going to cost in advance once you set up your destination and select your vehicle. So there's no need to go through the trouble of trying to predict it by using charts and other apps. The one thing that you should know is that both Uber and Lyft use what they call dynamic pricing. That is a euphemism for charging you more when it gets busy. Dynamic pricing, the entry tells us, takes effect when a lot of people in the same area are requesting rides at the same time. This means that rides will be more expensive. Let's see how that works in practice. In this example, we're going to go from home, the towers at Longfellow, to dinner in Cambridge. We're going to Oleana. I've requested this trip at 5:11 in the afternoon. I've circled that and enlarged the time to make it easier for you to see. And the fare is going to be $15.44. Let's zero in there. There's a note that tells us it's busy. Fares are higher than usual. Well, let's see what happens if we wait, let's say an hour and a half, actually an hour and 31 minutes. Going to make that request at 6:42. The price has dropped from $15 and change to $10.75. The note that it's busy and your ride is going to be more expensive is no longer there. By waiting an hour and a half, the price of my ride has been reduced by 30%. I may have lost my reservation in Oleana, but I have saved a couple of bucks. That is dynamic pricing in action. Be warned, at busy times, you will be charged more. Another useful thing to do is to schedule a ride in advance. You may want to do this, for example, if you're going to the airport early in the morning. You want to be sure that you've got a ride set up. You don't want to be sitting in your lobby at 5 o'clock in the morning twiddling your thumbs while the plane is getting ready to take off and you're waiting for a driver. So you want to schedule that ride in advance. Here's what you do. Here's the Where To screen. I'm not going to tap on Where To. I'm going to tap on the icon just to the right of the Where To box where there is a representation of a car with a clock behind it, telling me that I can schedule a ride. I tap on that icon and I go here. I am invited to schedule a ride. Now, a default suggestion has come up. It's probably not what you will use. You will probably not want to accept that. You're going to tap Continue, and you're going to start working with the sliders. You can swipe the sliders up and down, starting with the one on the left. You can swipe up or down to change the date. You can swipe the second slider to change the hour. You can swipe the third slider to change the time, and you can swipe the last slider to choose AM or PM. Once you have gotten what you want, you can press continue, and then you can press schedule Uber X at the bottom, like that, and you will be notified that your upcoming ride has been set. It gives you the date, the time, where you're going. It tells you what the fare is going to be, and it tells you also that your driver will arrive between 4 and 4:10 p.m. I'd actually set it for 4. Uber gives the driver a 10-minute window, and it tells you that if the driver arrives after that 10-minute window closes after 4:10, you'll get $10 off your next ride. What about canceling a ride? There are a couple of ways to cancel a ride. If you have not been assigned a driver, you just ask for the ride and Uber is still finding the ride for you, you can tap on that bar at the bottom that says finding your ride. If the driver has already been selected, you can tap on the driver information bar at the bottom of the screen, and in either case you will get an option to cancel. Right there, the word cancel is in the middle of the screen. It's in red. You can tap on that and cancel the ride. Uber will ask you if you really mean it. It'll tell you we're almost finished, and you're going to say yes. You're going to tap yes. Cancel. The ride will be canceled. You may be charged a cancellation fee. Here's some information from Uber's website. I'm going to zero in on the second entry. I've enlarged the type there to make it easier to read. You may be charged a cancellation fee if you cancel a few minutes after a driver accepts the trip. The specific amount of time depends on your location. The next paragraph tells you that you may be charged if you're a no-show. It says you may be charged if your driver cancels after waiting a few minutes at your pickup location. The specific amount of time depends on your location. So if the driver waits for you a while, you don't show up, he can leave, and you will be charged a cancellation fee as a no-show. You can find out whether you've been charged a cancellation fee by going up into the drop-down menu using the icon in the top left corner, and this time go into the Your Trips section. Your most recent trips will be displayed. I've highlighted the one where we just had a cancellation. It says, I've circled the information there. It says canceled and $0,000. So in that cancellation, I did it fast enough so that I was not charged a cancellation fee. If I had been charged a cancellation fee, I would tap on that entry, and I would then go down to the request to review my cancellation fee. I would tap on that entry, and then I would follow whatever I had to do to give Uber my reasons, my excuses, my arguments for not having a cancellation fee. That about wraps it up for Uber. You can learn more by going on the web. In this case, I have Googled Uber Help, and this takes me to this page, help.uber.com. I am going to select a guide to Uber, and that will take me to this page with a lot of links. I can link to all kinds of subjects. I can follow up on questions that would be covered by those subjects and learn more about how to use Uber. Let's move on to Lyft. Here we are with the screenshot of one of my home screens with the Uber and Lyft links front and center. This time we will click on Lyft and request a ride. The opening screen looks very much like the Where To screen in Uber. This is the Where Are You Going screen. You will tap on the search destination box. You will start typing in the address that you want for your destination. In this case, I'm going to 64 Beacon Street. I've typed in 64 and Lyft has given me several suggestions. The one I want is 64 Beacon Street. I will tap on that, and that will start to set up my trip. You can see at the very top of the screen there's a box that says current location. There's an arrow going to 64 Beacon Street, and there's a representation of the projected route on the map. And I am given a choice here of selecting shared, that is equivalent to Uber's Pool, or Lyft, which is equivalent to Uber's UberX. Lyft is the default selection. It is highlighted. You will use it almost every time, if not every time. So let's click on Select Lyft. Here we go. I will be asked to confirm the pickup location, and you can see that the pickup location is given in the box near the bottom of the screen that says location for Longfellow Place. So I can confirm that because that is correct. What if the same mistake that we discussed before had been made, and if instead of going to 4 Longfellow Place, the driver was being directed to the other side of the building, 72 Stanford Street? The way to correct that is quite straightforward. It's a little bit simpler than it was in Uber. I would tap on that incorrect address. I would then tap on the location box. That would open this dialog with the incorrect location highlighted at the top of the page. Start typing. Put in the correct address. I get as far as 4LON. The top suggestion from Uber is the one I want, 4 Longfellow Place. Tap on it, and the correct address is inserted. Now I want to check the car. Let's assume that the driver has arrived. In this case, Lynette is going to pick me up in a Hyundai Sonata with the license plate exhibited there. So I'm going to go outside and look for her, and what if she's not there? What if I have the same problem we discussed with Uber? Maybe she's on the east side of the street, I'm on the west side of the street. Maybe she's at 1 Longfellow, I'm at 4 Longfellow. What do I do? I hope she calls me. If she doesn't call me, I can tap on that icon and call her. The two of us will talk to each other and arrange to meet so we can take the ride. En route, we now have an option while we're driving. This is the screen that you'll see when you're en route. This is a different trip. There is a link there that we did not have in Uber. Down in the bottom left hand of the screen, there is a link that is labeled Edit Ride. If I click on that, there are several things I can do while we are on the trip. I can edit the drop-off. That is, I can change the destination from where we initially entered. I decide I want to go somewhere else. I can tap that choice and change the drop-off spot. I can add a stop. Remember, we did this in Uber when we were on the fly. We added an intermediate stop. I can do that here by clicking on that choice, or I can cancel the ride after it's already in progress. Let's move on and see what Uber does with tips and ratings, what Lyft does with tips and ratings. As was the case with Uber, Lyft is going to push you to give a tip, but it's going to do that first. You may remember in Uber, we were asked first to rate the driver, and then we were asked to give a tip. In Lyft, it works the other way around. You are asked to add a tip first, and then you are asked to rate. So in this case, I'm going to give Lynette a nice tip. I thought she was really good. Gave her $5, and then I am taken to this screen, which has the blank stars at the bottom. As was the case with Uber, I can check as many stars as I want to give her whatever rating I want to give her, or I can leave it with no stars. As with Uber, I can save myself some time and energy by using popular or well-known names for businesses and other public locations instead of typing in an address. To do that, when I'm at the search destination box, I will click on search destination. We had good luck with MFA for the Museum of Fine Arts with Uber. This time I'm going to try another well-known spot in Boston, the Boston Public Library. I'm going to see if BPL, which is an accepted shortcut abbreviation for Boston Public Library, works. I get to the point of typing in BP, I've circled and enlarged that entry, and I already am getting suggestions. There are 3 here that are useful. The first one is the West End branch of the Boston Public Library. That is the branch that is closest to where I live. The next choice is the North End branch of the Boston Public Library, which is the second closest branch to where I live. And a little farther down the screen, there is the Boston Public Library. That is the main building on Boylston Street. So that worked really well. Lyft is just as smart as Uber in taking you to well-known places. Let's try a restaurant. I want to go to Panaficio on Charles Street. I get as far as typing in PAN. Lyft gives me several suggestions. The one I want is Panaficio Bistro and Bakery on Charles Street. I select that and I am on my way. Lyft works just as well as Uber in making suggestions that are useful. If you have the chance, don't worry about typing in the address. Try to type in the name of the location you want to go to, if it's a public place, or even better, an accepted abbreviation for that place, and let Lyft do the work for you. You can set up a home or a work shortcut or both in Lyft very much the same way you did in Uber. You're going to go to the drop-down menu icon at the top left corner. Once there, you're going to select Settings from the drop-down menu. And you will see that you're given the chance to add home. I've circled Add Home as a spot. I'm going to tap on that box. And I am going to type in my home. I've skipped the details there. It works the same way as it did in Uber. You'll be given a box to type in your home address, and as you can see, that's already happened. My home has been entered as 4 Longfellow Place. If I wanted to, I could tap Add Work. I'm not doing that, but I do want to add a favorite residential stop as I did in Uber. In Uber, we chose 72 Mount Vernon Street. Let's, in Lyft, go back up to that drop-down menu. Going to go into Settings, and this time I'm going to tap Manage All Shortcuts. And I'm going to this time choose the sister address for 72 Mount Vernon Street. I'm going to choose 70 Mount Vernon Street. So I tap on Manage All Shortcuts. I'm going to tap on Add Custom Shortcut. I'm going to start typing in the box that says Add Address. In this case, I'm going to type in 70 Mount Vernon Street. I'm not going to show you all the details because it's much the same as it was in Uber. And then after I type in 70 Mount Auburn Street, I'm going to type in a name. In this case, I know that Roger and Susan Cox live at 70 Mount Vernon Street, so I have named that shortcut R&S Cox. In practice, if I want to go there, I'm in my Where To box dialog. I'm going to tap on Search Destination, and that shortcut R&S Cox is going to show up as a suggestion. I don't have to worry about typing in 70 Mount Vernon Street, Boston. I just tap on that selection and my ride will be set up. To set up a multi-stop trip in Lyft, we will start with the Search Destination box. Tap on that. As was the case with Uber, there's going to be a plus sign to the right of the Search Destination box. I do not type in the search destination box. I do not choose one of the selections. I tap the plus sign. That will open a new box for me. This box is labeled Via. It's a new field, and I am limited to one intermediate stop and lift. So the top box is where I start, current location. I tap on Via to enter an intermediate address. And I have done that. I am skipping the steps. It's much the same as it was in Uber. You will type an address in Via. You will then be permitted to tap the destination box and tap in an address. And once your trip is set up, you're going to get a screen that looks like this. Let me zero in on what's at the top. The entry at the top shows that we're going to go from current location to 132 Tremont Street. Now in this case, 132 Tremont Street is the final destination. You can tell that this is a multi-stop trip because there is a double arrow going from current location to 132 Tremont Street. So that tells me that we're going to have an intermediate stop. Now let's see if we can do that on the fly. We can. Here we are. This is the screen that you see when your trip is in progress. And as we noted before, we have this very useful link that we can click on while the trip is in progress. It's labeled Edit Ride. One of the choices that we have is to add a stop. So we can add a stop while the trip is in progress. We were able to do that also in Uber. And we do it on the fly after the trip is started. If you do that, your routing and your pricing will probably change, as it probably will in Uber. Let's take a quick look at the car choices in Lyft. The first choices that you get are the economy choices, shared and Lyft. You can see that there are price differences there. For a strange reason, Lyft is cheaper than shared on this example because Lyft is offering me a special reduction if I use it. Don't plan on that happening. Shared will almost always be cheaper. That's the one where you share the vehicle with other people. If you swipe left on the screen, you will get to luxury choices. There are two luxury choices. If you swipe left again, you will get to two larger vehicle choices. These are vehicles that will accommodate 6 passengers, whereas the default Lyft selection would accommodate only 4 passengers. Now you may remember that in Uber we also had another screen for taxi and for wheelchair access vehicle. The taxi choice is not available in Lyft. The wheelchair access vehicle choice is, but it's hidden. It will not show up unless you unhide it. To unhide it, you tap the icon in the top left corner of the screen to bring down the drop-down menu. Go to Settings. This time you tap Wheelchair Access. The slider goes over to the right. It turns that option on. And then when you are swiping your screens, you will get an additional choice. This will be the last one. You can select Wheelchair Access. See, it says Select Access. Pricing, there's really not much to say except that if you feel like it, you can download a bunch of charts and try and work your way through a predicted price for a ride. The only important thing to know, in my view, is what was important to know in Uber, that prices are higher when things are busy. This is what is on the Lyft page. Passengers may see higher ride costs when there's more demand for rides. If your current price is higher than expected, it may be busier than usual. No surprise there. This is dynamic pricing in action. Let's go back to that airport example. You're catching a flight the next morning, or you have some other reason to schedule a ride in advance. This is how you do it in Lyft. Here we are being asked to request Lyft. Now there's a slight difference here. In Uber, we clicked the icon, the car with the clock behind it. That was the icon to schedule a ride. We did that first, and then we entered the details for the ride. After we did that, we entered the start place and the end place. It works a little differently in Lyft. In Lyft, you set up the ride first. So here I have set up a ride from 4 Longfellow Place to 64 Beacon. And after you have set up the ride, you can click on the schedule icon near the bottom of the screen right there. You don't request Lyft at this time, you hit schedule. And you will go to a default suggestion, which is probably not the suggestion that you will take. That's probably not when you will want to schedule your ride. Instead, you will want to work with the sliders. You have the date slider on the left. Then you have the hour slider, the minute slider, and the AM or PM slider. You can swipe those up or down when you get to a time that you want. You can ask to schedule the ride. If you look at what I've circled, right there you see Lyft 10:05 to 10:20 p.m. In that example, what I did was choose 10:05. And Lyft is telling me, let's take a look at it. Here's the confirmation. Lyft is telling me that it's going to have the driver arrive to take me from 4 Longfellow Place to 64 Beacon Street sometime between 10:05 and 10:20. So Lyft is giving the driver a 15-minute window in which to meet its assignment. You may remember that in Uber there was a 10-minute window. There's another difference here in the confirmation. Let's go back to look at the Uber confirmation on a scheduled ride. There's the 10-minute window. It says we're going to be picked up between 4 and 4:10, but also we were given the fare. This is $16.05 is the fare for the scheduled ride. And I've also put a box around the information that says your driver will arrive before 4:10 or you'll get $10 off your next ride. You don't get that information with Lyft. Lyft doesn't tell you what the price is going to be, and it doesn't tell you that there's a guarantee. Now, it may be that you already have that information because since you set up the ride in advance in Lyft, you probably will see the price. I'm not sure of that. I'd have to go back and try it. But in any event, you do not see the projected price for the scheduled ride in your confirmation. To cancel a ride in Lyft, you take a very simple step. Here you are. You have ordered a ride. Lyft has given you this screen which tells you it's setting up your pickup. Click on the Edit Ride button. You will go to this familiar set of choices. We've seen this before, and you can cancel your ride. If the driver has already been assigned, you can also go to that Edit Ride icon near the bottom of the screen, and you will come up with this same set of choices, and you can cancel the ride. To check whether you've been charged for the cancellation, you can click on the drop-down menu icon at the top of the screen. Go into Ride History. There are your most recent rides. I have the one that I canceled at the very top, and it says canceled ride $000. I was not charged. If I had been charged, I would tap on that box if I wanted to contest it. I would then tap on Get Help, and I would make my plea to Uber. I would enter whatever entries I had to make in order to argue, plead, give excuses, or what have you to try to get out of the cancellation fee. Now, I should tell you that the cancellation fee for both Lyft and Uber in Boston is $5. It's the same for a cancellation as it is for a no-show. If, however, you are canceling a scheduled ride, that is one that you have set up in advance, the fee will be $10. You may have noticed that there is one thing we did not do here. When we were talking about the ratings and tips, we did not go to check what our rating is in Lyft. The reason for that is Lyft does not permit you to do that. You can find out your rating in Uber. You can find out the rating that drivers give you. I showed you how to do that by clicking on the drop-down menu icon and looking at the very top of the window that opens. That option is not available in Lyft. That about wraps it up for Lyft. If you would like to get some more help, you can go to Google. You can Google Lyft Help, as I have done here. I put a circle around Lyft Help, which was my Google. I would then tap on Riding with Lyft because you will be a rider. That will take you to this box, to this screen. You will have a lot of choices of links that you can follow up on to pursue whatever you need an answer about.
That's all, folks.